The future is now, of course, on the football field, as 2023 looks to be a big, big year for the Noles. But the future is way beyond 2023 and beyond 24 and so forth, as Jason is giving me all sorts of hand signals as we lead into our Florida State live show here at the Voice of College Football.
Now. The future's now.
Oh, the future's now.
Right.
Is
The
it?
future is Logan. The future is Logan now.
I don't know about that one. Got a little ways to go there, but we're almost there. We're almost to spring camp. That's all I care about. That's all I care about. I know we got the ACC stuff going on. I think that we'll probably talk about that for another 2 or 3 years.
Logan.
Probably.
Mark has to introduce us. Do you not know how this show goes? We've done 201 of these. We have a process. Sorry, I apologize.
Well, you weren't here for the 200. You weren't here for the 200,
I
so
I was busy getting an exclusive interview with Florida State football head coach Mike Norvell. More on that in a moment. I apologize, Mark. Please continue.
Yeah, well, we were kind of taken off of our rhythm when you were going this, and I'm looking at the banner. I'm looking at Logan. What is he talking about?
Mark, I apologize. Please continue.
Yes, Jason Parker, NBC 6, Logan Robinson, Nole Game Day. And Jason, before we get started with so much to talk about on the field and off the field, yes, concerning the ACC that we will be discussing, I'm sure, for years, because it's not going to happen overnight. Sorry, Florida State fans. That Jason has an announcement for us.
I do off the top. So I want to do this with Logan here as well, because Logan, I think over the past 201 episodes has become kind of like my little brother amongst us here. But just real quick off the top, about a month ago, the Miami Herald, for those of you who are down here, are Miami fans who read this, the Miami Herald posted a article written by one of their writers who's a tad bit on the sensationalist side, talking about how WTVJ was kind of ending our sports department, how our sports department was going away. Well, it could have been further from the truth. Essentially what happened was there was some movement with one of our producers who moved to being an executive producer for a couple other shows we do. Our on-air talent is leaving to go explore other opportunities. But our sports department is not going away, and I can say that on a 100%. I am 100% certain the sports department is not going away because, well, how should I put this nicely? You're talking to the sports department of WTVJ, making a move from doing just digital. I'm still going to be handling the sports stuff in digital and whatnot, but moving over to being the sports producer at WTVJ. So, with that means. With a big increase in going back to what I did in my first 12 years in this business in working in sports means a lot more responsibilities, because for the time being, at least for another month or month and a half or so, I am the entire sports department of the TV station. So for a while, I, Jason Parker, NBC6 at JPZ333, am going to be taking a step back from Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, because I have to. I have to take a step back. I have to get this ball rolling. So tonight, don't worry, I'll be here in the summer. I got the hot takes. I promise you hot takes. You will get hot takes this summer. I'll come back as much as possible during football season. But for a while, this is the last you're going to see of Jason Parker with Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, with Logan Robinson, the voice of Florida State football on Nole Game Day and Bucks Game Day, for all your information on 8 and 10 NFC South Championship team.
See, once you started in on that announcement, I thought, okay, this means that Jason is going to set us up with all the various interviews and everything that they're doing at NBC6. It's just going to be mirrored here at the Voice of College Football.
I promise you, and I am saying this right now, as we welcome the eyes of James Coleman here. James Coleman, big game James.
Looks like staff member gear, if I do say so myself.
Very nice. That is very nice. I do like that gear. I'm gonna need that in Excel, James. Send it down my way. But the point is, I promise you, Mark, that while I may not be here that much for the next couple of months, when Mike Norvell comes back to Fort Lauderdale on May 10th, I will try my damnedest to get it. I swear to God. I will try. Unlike Logan, who lives in Tallahassee and has not been able to get him one time, I promise I will try my damnedest. We did get an exclusive with him. I asked him all the questions that all three of you presented the week before, and we will go through that over the next 40 minutes or so here. I promise.
Well, first off, Jason, it's in order to say congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm sure you will do an amazing job. That's why you were selected.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I think it was because I'm the only guy there who knows sports, but I will take that. I do appreciate that, Mark. Thank you very much.
And we are now getting a glimpse into how much devotion Jason has had to this show, that he cannot carve out an hour. You know, he couldn't sleep like one less hour during the week and give it to us.
What is?
I've got a jam-packed schedule. Like,
Seriously.
I've actually got something to do at 7, and I told them, I was like, hey, I am going to have to be late. So like, I have to. It's the National Association of Black Journalists. I think this is a big deal. I'm not sure or not, but like, they only have one meeting once a year, and I said, hey, I've got a Mark Rogers podcast, The Voice of College Football. You don't get that opportunity. That opportunity doesn't come on your desk every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. No, absolutely not.
Look at that. Take note of that, Jason. That should have been your.
Look,
That's, you know, James just wrote your script that you should have delivered to your boss.
Look.
There it was.
Look, I'm 39 years old. I have a Jewish mother. I've had years of Jewish guilt. So that did nothing to me, what James just did right there. Please. Nothing. Whatever.
Jewish guilt.
Jewish guilt. It's fine. It's great. No, I got nothing with James right there. But for the record, I will say, as I will man this ship here, we did interview Mike Norvell only on 6, an exclusive interview with WTVJ down here, and I asked all the questions. So I will start with the man who just tried to throw a guilt trip on me, James Coleman. I did ask if he was looking for a fullback coach. He did say to send in your resume. Just saying right there. There you go. I think we can see James on the sideline for Florida State coming up soon. So that was number one. I will go to Mark. Mark's question was, at what point did he see things were turning around? At what point last season did he see the ship starting to get righted, if you will? He said that he saw it from day one. He said he saw it from the first point of the season. Do I necessarily believe that? Who knows? But he said he saw that from that first part of the season, how they started off 4-0, that he could see things were turning. He saw it there, and then he saw it in the Georgia Tech game. Because, and we've talked about it many times over the course of last season, there was that point where you lost those 3 games, and you wonder, is this the way things were going? Were they starting to circle the drain? And then you saw what happened after that. You saw a 6-game win streak, not just a win streak, but dominating on the road at Miami, dominating on the road at Syracuse. You know, coming back to beat a Florida team at home that you hadn't beaten Florida since 2017. And then, yes, I know Oklahoma, we played them when they were 6-6, but that was still an Oklahoma team. So you finished the year with 3, I would argue 4 quality wins. And Mike Norvell said that. Mike Norvell said he noticed that things were starting to turn around from the beginning, and that he saw them turn around after those 3 straight losses. Now, to my little brother Logan's point, where he asked the question about the new guys coming in, where you asked about Bell and some of the other guys, he says he loves what these guys are bringing in. He would not stop talking about Hakeem Williams, the 5-star wide receiver who came in from Fort Lauderdale Stranahan High School, but he loves Bell. What he loves about these guys is that it's veterans who are coming in who made a commitment to want to join the Florida State program. How Bell left a South Carolina team that was not a bad South Carolina team. I mean, they went to the Gator Bowl, played Notre Dame, played them tough this year, but that they are coming in. What he loves about them is that they are buying in as much as guys who returned. He mentioned about Jordan Travis returning, about Trey Benson returning, about Tatum Bethune returning, how those 3 are buying into what the program has, and how he loves how that leadership of those guys and the leadership of Bell is rubbing off on the young guys, how these young guys are buying into what the future is holding. So he was very adamant about how bright the future is going to be for these guys. So that's where we got it. So
I'm not discounting any of those answers, and they could all be extremely genuine, but they also sound like coach speak. Was there anything that he told you that you thought, that's interesting, that's really gives me something?
To be honest with you, I liked it when the question we asked him about what's it going to be like in the 2023 season, how you're going to likely come in as a top 10 team, how you have that target on your back. Plenty of people think that Florida State and Clemson are the 2 favorites to play in the ACC title. What he said is that from the day after that Oklahoma game, that he has been instilling in these players guys, we are going to be the main dogs this year. How he instilled on these guys that it is on us. He said, the main message that I told these guys is, where do you go from here? Do you rest on the laurels of a 10-win season, or do you build? He goes, you have a chance right now. And we've talked about this before. When Bobby Bowden, the late great Bobby Bowden, was the coach of Florida State, he said it goes in 4 stages. You lose big, you lose close, you win close, you win big. He goes, I've instilled this in these players, that this is the next step. He goes, the first year in 2020, we were losing big. We got blown out by Louisville. We got blown out by NC State. We got blown out by Miami in the first game. He goes, the second year, we lost close. We lost close to Florida. We lost close to Notre Dame. We lost close to Jacksonville State. That we're just going to ignore that game like it didn't happen. He goes, but then this year, he goes, you're winning these close games. You got the 1-point win over LSU. You got the comeback win against Louisville. You've got the close win against both Oklahoma and Florida. He goes, so now this is the next step. And I've instilled that in these players. Are you going to take the next step, or are you just going to rest on what we've done now? I will admit I have been a critic of Mike Norvell his first 3 seasons, especially his first 2 seasons. With that being said, judging by interviews and hearing what the players talk to, what the players have said, I'm buying in. I get that it's young. I get that we still have to go through spring football. I'm buying in that something special is going to happen this year in Tallahassee.
Jason, you have been more positive about this football team, and obviously it's shown on the field. So it
sucks.
There's an obvious correlation, but man,
where did this happen?
Something special. You almost brought a tear to my eye there, Jason.
Tears. Tears of joy.
This is the most sentimental you've talked about this current Florida State. You talk in a sentimental tone about the 1980s and the 1990s, but this is the first time I was like, wow, it's really embracing this team, this coach.
If I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out with a bang. And so I'm going to make Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, cry. That's my goal.
Oh, that's your goal?
I'm to shed a tear here before the end of the night.
Wouldn't make me cry as much as Kyle Pickett here with a $50 donation.
Hey,
but,
hey, if it gets you $50 to let Kyle call me the ginger, go for it. I'll take it. Go for it, man.
I will say, Jason, if that offends you, then I will scold Kyle. If it doesn't offend you, then I'll accept the $50.
Take it.
Well, I'll accept the $50 anyway. Either way.
Take that 50, son.
Thank you, Kyle. We appreciate it. And I do read out all the super chats, of course. So we're setting up a GoFundMe for the ginger. Let's donate. There it is.
Now, do I get to see the money, or are we just going to say it's towards the Mark Rogers fund?
Well, we can make the exchange that for all the bets that we've made through the years, in which I've won every one. We're supposed to be $20 bets, all of them.
You've won 2 $20 bets. I believe that I'm the one who got the closest on the wins for this past season. So I believe I still owe you like 20. So you take the 20 off that 50 and just send the 30 in cash. It's fine.
Yeah, I would have to go through the record books, through the DMs, because I think it's about 6-1 at this point.
Long ways to go.
James, we got to hear from you, of course. What's on your mind?
Nothing. Just traveling. I'm in Indianapolis right now. I'm at the combine. Yeah, so I'll see Jamie Robinson. I believe tomorrow. DBs are tomorrow. So I'll be there trying to get a position myself. I'm still making rookie mistakes trying to travel. I left my tripod. I do have my fancy new microphones though, so people will be able to hear better sound with my I advise anybody, especially you, Logan, on the go Rodecaster wireless Go 2 mics. Best investment. It comes with the little boom mic thing over it too.
Yeah.
A little square. There's a little attachment. You can make it look like your microphone.
Yeah.
You put it up there. It's extremely clear. I'll have it on Monday. I'll be over there Monday's practice. I'll be in Tallahassee.
Hell yeah.
You gotta see the first practice.
James, I do have a quick question for you. We saw what Jamie Robinson did on the field in his time in Tallahassee, and we saw him I think his resume is great because of what he did on the field. What does he need to do during the combine to solidify that draft stock from the April's draft?
Oh, I think really the biggest things that you're looking for from a safety is you want to see some speed that's not mid. He's a I don't really first and foremost, there's nothing that he can do to make himself a Thursday pick. So I think that needs to be eliminated. I think a lot of guys need to be real with themselves. You would love to be that, but just realize you're not going to be a Thursday pick, and that's the first round of the draft. Now, could he slip and be a later day 2 pick? I mean, he'll be in the second or third round, possibly. But I think he's probably a 4th round grade guy. And that's just where he's at. Those are the guys that fill rosters. But what he can do is, if he's running a sub 4.6 40, I know so many people have been misled to believe that that's just slow, but it's not. If he can show explosiveness in the vertical and in the broad jump, I think if you fail the drills at this point, like you just were lazy. Like the drills should become second nature. Like, or you pick a really bad person to do your combine training with. Like he should be good and ready for all these DB drills. And that's about it.
I think he has a fundamentally sound kind of player too, kind of compact. He's, I guess you could say, undersized, but at least on the film wise this year, you kind of saw how physical he can bring himself to the field and how he looked. And I think too, for him, like a third round, 4th round is probably expected for him. And one thing that I like about him, at least being able to get to know him the last year and a half, really getting close, is just his mentality. And I think he's going to, the biggest thing, I think he'll do even better in interviews, in my opinion. He presents himself really well. And I think Florida State's done a really good job, definitely in their SID department, working with interviews and such, giving them a lot of opportunities. Us being media there all the time, you're continuously doing interviews. You're having to go through the ups and the downs. He certainly did that. So I think he'll kill it with some of these interviews that he's going to have with general managers, scouts, whoever else is going to be there in the building. I think he's going to do a great job on that part.
I think that's the craziest part, is like that's the most intensive part of the process. There's going to be an exclusive interview that'll probably I'll do it tomorrow. It'll drop in Den Media Group for members on Friday. It should be edited sometime Friday for people to be able to enjoy, with a top overall prospect that could potentially be the first overall pick. People can do deductive reasoning and figure out who the heck I'm talking about, but Mark probably has another channel where that should be discussed.
Not Will Mallory. It's not Will Mallory.
It's definitely not Will Mallory, but I am going to go check out Will, seeing that he's a local to Jacksonville kid. But this young man did 18 interviews today. Like that is a lot. For people to put it in perspective, there's only 14 people who didn't talk. So and a lot of guys are meeting, and there's a lot of meetings, and that's really what this is. I actually talked to my teammate Antonio Cromartie. We're staying at the same hotel here, and he's like up here trying to make sure he networks and gets a good job, which I'm all for him.
James, question for you. You've played the college game before. You've seen how this process goes.
I've actually participated in this process.
You did. That's what I'm saying. You participated in this process. So when you've seen what has gone from when you were a player to what it is now, when I see more and more guys who go to the combine but don't participate in certain drills, don't participate in, quarterbacks don't throw the ball at the combine and whatnot. Has the combine become, to a certain extent, I guess the best word I would say, has the combine become obsolete, is it more of the pro day aspect, or does the combine still have some value?
No, I think the combine has tremendous value. I think it really just depends upon who you are. Let's go back to what the reality of what the NFL combine was. It was started as an opportunity to give teams a uniform set of data and numbers to be able to measure everybody by. Because at your respective pro days and other things, you're relying on medical staff that the university has, medical staff that this, and it's also helped the players not have to travel to 32 different teams for them to be able to get their stuff. It's kind of like now, even with college, if you go to Alabama's football camp, your numbers are put in a database that other schools can go see. So like you don't have to go do 35 football camps. But like you have the, let's say when I did it, the Jacksonville Jaguars medical team happened to be the staff. It was funny because I happened to, I started working with a lot of those guys. The guy who did my physical the next year, and Dr. Carlos Tandra, who used to be with the Jaguars. But they kind of take you through their things, and then they share their findings with the rest of the NFL. And now instead of, let's say, the Panthers having to spend 3 to 4 hours with you, if they find a specific flaw when they fly you in to do a specific workout, they could go in and attack. Then they say, "Oh my God, our guys found a dark line in his shoulder. We think we want to go do our own separate MRI with it." So that's one of the biggest things. And it's one of the few times you get all 32 teams in one area. So the interviews are the most important thing. Now, what happens is that since I've played, this thing has become more of a science. It's become more of a show. And the reason why players are opting out is because the comfort of your home, it gives you something else. Like there was a kid, like to use examples, a lot of guys traveled in today. And when you're seeing these guys travel in, they're stressed out because they know that this is the biggest job interview in your life, that they're up to this point. And you're doing it in your underwear, basically. Imagine, like, for people listening, I want you to think about the job you're at currently now, if you like the job or if you don't. And just think, you have to impress all your bosses in tights. And like they're seeing it with everything. Nothing is left to the imagination. You might as well do it naked. And it's not in front of women. It's in front of a bunch of old, fat guys who are washed, and they're critiquing every aspect of you. So the reason why guys don't run 40s is because they feel like they can run a better 40 on a much more lenient laser. The reason why quarterbacks typically don't throw is because when you go to your school, your quarterback coach takes in consideration what the NFL coaches want, but you know the script of every play that you're going to run, and you literally get to rehearse that and go through it. So that's why you see quarterback pro days so much more efficient than they are at the combine, where you're throwing the guys that you've never worked with before. Now, why are guys like Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, a lot of other guys doing this, and guys like Bryce Young aren't? Bryce Young has a I think the more you have done on the field, the less you need to prove it. You need to like look at my work. I let the video prove for itself. But when you're guys like Anthony Richardson, who I believe have a combined like a 13 career starts with that, and you're at 6 and 7, and there's a lot of intrigue, you go and you put on a show. You show the confidence to be able to put on a show. When you're a guy who, like you're Jamie Robinson and you're undersized and, you do have some tackles, you do have this, you go out and you do every rep, because you could literally wow somebody so much that they're willing to, take a flyer on you.
We appreciate everybody being here for FSU Live every Wednesday, 6 Eastern. We get the full crew here, at least what the full crew is for episode number 201, but certainly will not be the full crew very soon, as Jason Parker has let us know. He's taking a bit of a sabbatical for a particular reason, but congratulations, Jason, who has taken over the sports department there at NBC6 in Miami. Big game James Coleman is joining us from Indianapolis and the NFL Combine. Looking forward to his work, and check out his Twitter, where he's going to be posting their best destinations other than Twitter, James, for your work from the Combine.
Den Media Group on YouTube. That is what I want. I need to get to 2,000 subscribers. We'll be dropping stuff in reels. Like, there was a question, I don't know if everybody got a chance to say it. Jason, you would have been proud of me. I got a chance to see John Harbaugh. And all the questions had died down. And if you look at Baltimore Ravens, they used my question, cut me out of it, just like FSU did last year, what I did with Jay Sean Corbin, but it's okay. I asked him, can you tell us a little bit about Willie Taggart? And, what does he mean and things like this? And if you're interested in hearing what John Harbaugh said, I'll tell you how you can hear it. It'll be on my reels. It'll be on Den Media Group's not reels, on Den Media Group shorts later this evening, and you'll hear what John Harbaugh had to say about Willie Taggart as well as a few other people and them filling out their Baltimore Ravens staff. I got news for you. Logan, you'll love it.
Oh, I love it.
So it was very complimentary, to say the least. But there'll be stuff like that I'm going to be uploading. Get a chance to get in front of some people, and we're going to ask some questions. We're going to have the full length of the interviews that you'll be able to check out, especially if I'm able to get there on time and have all my equipment ready.
Big game. I promise you right now, I look at the Dolphins schedule. The Dolphins do not play the Jaguars in the regular season. But I promise you, I'm right here on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. I promise you, if the Dolphins and Jaguars play in the preseason, you are going to be on NBC6. I'm going to get your Jaguars insight. I'm going to use you. I promise I will not cut you out. And I promise you, Logan Robinson, right here, if the Dolphins play the Buccaneers in the preseason, because they're not scheduled to play in the regular season, Bucs Game Day insider, Logan Robinson on NBC6. I am sharing the wealth. And I appreciate that. You, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, if Miami and Florida State, or both, one or the other, joins the Big Ten, you are going to be on my show. I want Big Ten insight. I want analysts. I want analysis. I'm spreading the wealth. I'm drunk with power. I haven't had a drink in 27 months, but I am drunk on power.
We should have kicked you out the door a long time ago. Oh, that's phenomenal, Jason. Thank you.
But you know what? As my going away present to you guys, for the time being, as my going away present, I want Logan. First of all, I want you to give it to me for a final time.
Hit that like button. Hit the like button. Do it for Jason, waving his goodbyes to everyone just for a little while, but waving his goodbyes. Hit the like button. Okay. If you're either excited or not happy, I mean, whichever way, if you're happy or not happy, whichever way you think of Jason, hit the like button. That's about the best way of going for this, I think, because there's still Miami fans listening in. They're just not commenting anymore.
Pretty much. But Logan, because I do love you, I think we can say we love each other around here. Logan, never thought I'd say this. I never thought I would voluntarily say this. Logan, tell us about the Discord. Why should people join your Discord?
Wow. Jason's taking over here. Now we're setting us up on the Discord. Beautiful. Let's do it.
Look at that. I mean, everybody's getting their promotions. And get in the Discord. Get in the Discord. We got a tour of duty tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to try to get there at 5 and start getting some shots of Jaheim Bell, Hakeem Mims, all the newcomers coming in. So we'll be throwing that in the Discord. Also on Twitter is going to be popping. So, really the Discord and also Twitter are about to start getting crazy and wild again because we're already seeing some good numbers on the site, and that's all because of what Norvell was able to do on the field this last year, getting 10 wins. So, if spring camp's looking like this, kind of energy already building up, fall camp should be ridiculous. So, make sure you're following us on Twitter at Noel Game Day. I'm on Twitter at Logan's Twitty. It's going to be a fun next week, and then I'll be with James too once Florida State has their first spring practice, which I'm ecstatic for, and I think James is pretty stoked for it too. So a lot of good stuff. We saw a lot of good players emerge last year. Patrick Payton, Ronaldo Green kind of came out of nowhere and ended up being your best corner. Joshua Farmer put on some significant size. We got to see our first glimpses of Jared Verse. Didn't take long to say, and that's going to be your starter, and even more than that. But Trey Benson, too, also looking good and kind of shocking some people. So the spring is huge. If FSU fans, they shouldn't leave social media. Spring, make sure you're fully dialed in on every outlet that's covering Florida State because there's going to be a ton of awesome content. And Mike Norvell is allowing us to do quite a bit more, too, going into this season, it seems like, to give us some more access and media to you guys. So make sure you're following everybody. Don't even have to follow me, but make sure you're following everyone. It's going to be a good spring camp from a lot of good outlets that cover Florida State athletics.
And hopefully it's our last spring in the ACC. Please. I don't think it will, but just hopefully.
We're working on it.
I know. Hopefully. Guys, if you want to start the GoFundMe, don't start the GoFundMe for me. Start the GoFundMe for our buyout to get out of the ACC. Okay? One raging redhead.
Try
Yes,
to.
that's $50. Let's contribute that. Let's start a GoFundMe to get out of the ACC.
One raging. Golly, I didn't see that.
Whoa.
Damn.
Okay.
Jeez.
Kyle, thank you so much. I don't care what you put on that
Look,
super chat,
look,
just
if
as
that's
long
50,
as it doesn't get me kicked off YouTube.
As long as it doesn't get him kicked off.
If that's $50 more that gets us away from the ACC and closer to Big Ten Saturday nights on NBC, that's all I need.
Okay.
That's
Well, unless you've redirected my AdSense on YouTube, I think it's not headed in that direction.
Mark, take
But,
one for the team. Help us out. You're a Big
Kyle,
Ten
we
guy. Help
appreciate
us
it.
out here. Help
I
us
would love
out,
to
Mark.
see you guys in the Big Ten. That would be a whole lot of fun. I also want to remind everyone that playing off of what James talked about, we put the Sports Den Media link. It's in the chat, folks. So it's easy. We've made it extremely easy for you. Just grab the link. You go directly there. Check it out. Subscribe. Are we going to start? Are we going to open up this ACC conversation, or do we have anywhere else to go before that?
Let's open it up. Let's get it up.
You
We
open
got-
it
we
up
got a
while I
couple of
leave.
minutes. Let's do it.
Jason's better at this than I am, so this is my time to hit the exit door. Jason, it was a pleasure. I'm sure I'll see you soon. There's no way we won't.
I'll be at the
seeing
spring
you.
game.
We'll see you later this month, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I'll be at the spring game, and I will try to get back. And once the summer gets going, once we get this going, once we get our staff hired and get everything rolling, I will be back. I got hot takes to give you this summer. You got hot takes.
Logan,
Oh,
we
yeah.
appreciate you. Check out Logan and my Florida State position previews, offense and defense here on the channel.
Yep, absolutely. See y'all. See you, James. Safe travels back home. See you on Monday.
All right.
See you, man.
you.
Thanks. All right.
Now that
While
he's
we do
gone.
that, why don't we bring in, we got Chris Frazier on the line from
Hey.
Spear Addicts joining us
I
for the
know that
back
guy.
half of the show. Chris, what's going on?
I'm waiting for y'all to get to this part because this is my favorite part.
Okay, this is his favorite part. So you're filling in for Logan. This is a perfect transition because Logan hates this stuff. He wants to talk ball.
He wants to
All
talk
right.
weights and verticals and uniform changes. Let's just be honest about it. That's what Logan specializes in.
So, Jason, we will let you start us out because you've got the least amount of time on your most recent take of what Mike offered throughout there last Friday and the aftermath of that as we see it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of interesting when you hear Mike Norvell talk now is that I don't want to say the word swagger because that's something that this team down here that used to be called the U uses a lot. But he does have that kind of, he was walking a little differently. He was acting a little differently. I think he's finally embracing what it means to be the big dog in this state. We are the big dog program right now in the state of Florida. I mean, it's like being the gold medalist in the Special Olympics, but at this point, we'll take it. I think the question you have to ask, and I'll ask Chris and I'll ask James on this one. At what point, guys, are we going to get out of this damn conference? I've been saying this for years. Guys, it's time we got to get out of here. So I'll ask Chris. This is our first time we've talked here. Chris, you're Florida State. Sell yourself to the SEC and sell yourself to the Big Ten. What is your resume? What is your sales pitch to both conferences?
I don't really want to sell myself to the SEC, to be honest.
There we go.
Particularly, I would like to sell myself to the Big Ten. And first and foremost, I've predicted for the past 2 years that we would announce it in 2025 that we would be going to the Big Ten, and I've dropped quite a few videos on why I think we're going to the Big Ten. First and foremost, I think what Florida State brings to recruiting to the Big Ten in the state of Florida is huge. Whether you bring your little sister along or not down south, what we bring to the table is obviously the viewership for not just football, but our softball team does something that nobody's talking about right now. Our softball team gets as much viewership as most ACC football teams do. So there's two key sports that I think that Florida State gets viewership on that even their Big Ten schools aren't getting. Plus, we would be ranked third in the Big Ten right now off of viewership and what we would bring to the table as far as money goes. And then what Florida State has done to get to the point to become an AAU member, you hire the president from Harvard, which was obviously an AAU member. And then you bring Michael Alford on, which before the commissioner of the Big Ten left was good friends with Michael Alford. So I think you have a way in there as well. And what Florida State's doing as far as investing into their school, not just into the sports side, but what they're doing to invest in the medical research side, what they're investing on the engineering side as well. A lot of people don't know how big the seismic studies for the engineering is about to be for Florida State, and what we would bring to the table for the Big Ten is obviously the TV market.
So I will ask you both this, and I want James in on this, and I want Chris in. So I'm down here in Miami. I'm down here in South Florida. I think there's a position that the Big Ten is going to expand to 20 teams. They're going to probably take 2 teams from the West Coast, whether it's Washington, Oregon, or Cal and Stanford, or whatever, so that USC and UCLA aren't all in there by themselves. So if they take Florida State, and I think the position is either do you take Florida State and Miami because they're our natural rival, our in-state rival. We brought them into the ACC, or if you're Florida State, do you go after Clemson? Do you say, hey, Big Ten, take Florida State and Clemson, or do you say take Florida State and Miami? So which side are you on this one? Do you say Miami or Clemson? Chris, and Miami or Clemson, James?
Miami and Florida State.
But that's what I'm saying. Which one do you say? If you're Florida State, do you want to go to the Big Ten with Miami or go to the Big Ten with Clemson?
Miami.
If I had to choose, it would be Miami. But I personally think that they figure it out how to get 3 to 4 additional teams if they're going to make that stretch.
Well, who do you think those will be?
I think they'll go down because really one of the best things in talking to Tony, and I don't know if you got a chance to see this, Mark, but I say nerd out with all respect. Like when Tony came on and with me and Chris for an hour on Sunday, and it was just amazing. It was very educational, a lot of facts and figures. But something that he said that stuck out to me was that if they bring on people, it can't dilute the brand. Like it has to make sense, like stuff that has to grow it. So when I look at what the Big Ten is doing naturally, they're making a nationwide conference. You don't go get UCLA and USC to get the West Coast, and you already have the East Coast, you already have the Midwest to completely forget where a majority of the natural viewers are for college football, as well as where a majority of the national championships are coming from, and the majority of the people who play Power 5 football come from, which is the South. You have to find a way, just like if you use military analogy and strategy, you have to find a way to be able to get and penetrate into the enemy stronghold. So what better way to do that than to set up a base? The best base would be Florida State, Miami, Clemson. And then when you look at I don't think Louisville will come, but I do look at where Louisville is at. I was just informed by one of my friends. He's only an hour and a half away from where I'm at right here in Indianapolis, which I'm basically in Big Ten country. I had no idea that Louisville was that close to the Midwest. And most of us who only are jocks never really looked at a map, especially since NCAA has been down and we haven't had to do recruiting. So I have no idea where anything is on the map right now. Or I think if they did take 3 teams from the ACC, then they would probably look to take another one of the bigger brands. I know they're saying they're not looking at anybody else in the Pac-12, but you got to look at who moves the needle. I think Louisville is ahead of Miami, or no, right next to Miami in terms of who brings in the most TV viewers. And that market is actually a bigger market than what people really will give it credit for. But Pittsburgh, Syracuse, Boston College, not people don't watch it, but it's the markets that are big enough from a TV perspective that would make sense. And I know BC from an academic standpoint makes sense. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about Syracuse and Pitt.
I think Syracuse, though. Syracuse, you would say for the New York market, obviously the New York City market. Yeah. But I think you have that covered with Rutgers. I agree with you. I think you want that nationwide approach. So I think if you're Florida State, I think you want Miami, not just because Miami's down worse than what Clemson is, obviously, right now, but I think you need that natural rivalry. You want that state of Florida. And I think they're going to take 2 because I think you have to have 2 more from the West Coast with UCLA and USC. So if along that regard, if you're Florida State, let's say it's Florida State and Miami, what 2 teams from the West? Do you want a Cal and Stanford? Do you want Washington, Oregon? Who would you want? If you're the Big Ten, what's sexier to you?
From what Tony told us, and looking at the numbers, like for me, what's sexier from a fan perspective would be Washington and Oregon. But what's sexy from the perspective of what they're looking at, it would probably be Cal and Oregon. I mean, like what was it? It was like, well, we know they're over $1 billion in research, but it's a lot more. Like their medical, from what Tony was telling us, their medical school is so big that it can no longer it has to count as its own school. Like it's a standalone, but it's technically Cal's, but it's not. So like they make a ton of money from research and grants. And the Big Ten decision isn't, like I always want to tell people, like, and I get it. This is Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, not the voice of college. But when you step outside, and again, one of my favorite movie quotes of all time is from the program, is when the coach said, with all due respect, when's the last time 85,000 people stood around to watch somebody do a math problem? It's very easy to like forget that until you realize that, colleges are research institutions and a ton of money athletics helps market it. But when you've got a Cal that's easily in the billions with its fundraising goals, that looks more attractive because of the overall things of what they can do for the university. That's why I tell people why I'm high on Big Ten over SEC. One, I think SEC has 1 to 2 of the best teams in the nation in football every year. They are not the best football conference. Nobody is afraid of Vanderbilt. Nobody is afraid of the bottom. Like South Carolina strikes no fear into me, and that's no disrespect. But I'll tell you, if you look at the Big Ten from top to bottom, a lot of their middle tier teams are better than most of everybody else. But everybody just wants the SEC because of football, and it's more to it.
Guys, in the words of the immortal philosopher Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. I will be back sometime.
Thank you, Jason. Keep
All
in
the
touch.
best.
Do some good work.
I'll try. I mean, it's down here in Miami. I don't know how much good work we can do down here, but we'll try.
We will keep the seat warm.
There may be some
Amen.
days where you may see some Florida State stuff on TV. Who knows? We're going to spread the goodwill down here. All the best, guys.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, really good stuff there. Chris, anything to add? I went on for 2.5 or 3 hours already today about this, so I certainly have all sorts of videos and live streams out there for people to check out. So I want to hear from you 2 guys first and foremost.
Well, the only thing that I have is I would absolutely love to see Clemson in the Big Ten with Florida State. Just based off of their academic side, I don't know if that's possible. From what I understand, they're not the greatest research type school. They don't have, and I could be mistaken, so if I'm wrong, correct me. But they don't have their own medical research. They're not really a research school. So to become an AAU member, which, I don't know that that's 100% a have to get in the Big Ten, but I would think it is. But Nebraska's been without it for so long. What's going to happen there? So does Clemson get, the opportunity to get in and then become that AAU member later down the road, as Nebraska hasn't had to have it in, I think, a decade now. So I would love to see that. I just don't know if that's a possibility. And another team that, I think might meet the criteria that isn't necessarily the biggest football brand, but I think might, twist some eyes to the Big Ten would be North Carolina. They may be good enough. They may have enough research abilities to become an AAU member if they're not already. But I know that Florida State, for the fan perspective and also for what Miami could do, you have to bring Miami along because I don't want Florida State losing the interstate rival game. We already have that, with the ACC. So I don't want to lose that. And I think Miami has more than enough capabilities because they have the research facility in medical down there. They also have one of the best. There's another thing that they do really well in research. So I think they could grasp the AAU member easily if need be. So, and then from the standpoint of being a fan, I just don't want to lose that rival. I don't think you ever lose the rival with Florida, regardless of where we go. But you don't want to schedule your out of conference game, both being Florida and Miami. It makes your schedule that much harder.
Similar to what James said a few minutes ago, it was only a week, maybe, after USC and UCLA were added. I posted a video and I said, if I'm the Big Ten, I go after Florida State and Miami, because if you're looking at what everything that you want out of a football conference, the Big Ten can check all the boxes except for where are the players coming from. Well, Ohio's about 7th or 8th in the nation, but it's down in regards to numbers, nowhere close to where it would need to be. And besides Ohio, there's some players in Michigan. There's a few players here. There's not enough quality of players or quantity of players. Go to Florida. That's the only thing you don't have, Big Ten. You've got major media markets. You got all the money in the world. Your academics are great. Your football is great. You produce the second most NFL players to the SEC, and you blow the other 3 conferences away in every other measurable, the most fans at the games and the best TV ratings. Go to Florida, set down a footprint there, grab players.
I agree.
There you go.
Real simple.
That is my thought. And I know I weigh heavy on the football side of it and the TV side because that's my background. But yeah, Tony has certainly balanced me out as well in providing a ton of academic and cultural metrics and narrative. And that guy is a historian as well when talking about these conferences and how they've aligned and which schools align with what. And, I made a comment to him and it was more of a question to say, has technology even more so connected these conferences? And he's like, absolutely. These conferences are much more connected and it's much more important who you're aligned with today than it was 40 years ago. And it was even important then, but certainly with technology, the databases get shared, all this gets shared. I don't know if he told you guys this, but he said, even when it comes to rental cars, he threw out some kind of number that the Big Ten saves like $8 million a year because they all are together on rental cars for all the rental cars that all these schools need for everything. You just build those kind of relationships and those kind of connections. And again, the libraries and the databases all being connected, that it's a big deal. It is a big deal.
Well, I'm going to take something out of Jason's pocketbook here, which I'll be announcing this on your show right now. So we have James and I on Spirit Addicts have Michael Alford coming on the show March 15th, which is a Wednesday. I don't know if I'm going to do that live and put that out March 15th at 10:30 a.m. because that's when he's available, or if I'm going to record that and then put it out on Thursday night as usual for our show. But if there's one question that you would like me to ask Michael Alford, what would that be?
So you're directing that toward me, huh?
Yeah,
give me a few minutes on that one. I may text that one to you.
That's fine. Perfectly fine.
Yeah, when you're talking about football, I usually spit out those responses pretty quick in regards to ask him this. But yeah, give me a few minutes on that one. But I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Completely.
So this is a phenomenal conversation right here to make sure everybody here, you're Florida State fans, or if you're just college football fans and just don't even care about Florida State, but you want to hear insight into what's going on with a big time football program that's dealing with the crosshairs of ACC versus the rest of the world and what's going on and what kind of moves we make. Catch this interview right here with Mike Alford. That's phenomenal because we've got a situation, and I went on a bit of a rant at the opening of the show that I did earlier today on the main channel, because we've got a bunch of knuckleheads on YouTube that basically are running around and telling you that they know what's going to happen and that they've got inside information. anytime I've got a source, I will cite the source. Otherwise, I'm making my own projections. It's my opinion, but I don't have inside source. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but you can gain a lot of insight into what possibly or probably will happen by listening to smart people or people that are in the know and making those kind of decisions, or at least have influence on the decision. So that's the type of information that you want to latch onto.
If somebody 100% knew, then they don't understand about playing they don't understand poker. You can't, just because I know I've got the nuts doesn't mean I show it. I want to be able to get as much out of the situation as I can. Or if I'm bluffing and I'm still trying to win the pot, if I let you know, well, now you have more information. And one thing about I know enough about the legal system is probably as close to poker as you could possibly get. Like, it's about reading people, and I'm reading multiple people at the same time. It was very strategic what Mike Alford did when he made that announcement at the Board of Trustees meeting in front of those guys. It wasn't necessary. It was definitely preparing something. But one would be a fool. And this is what I told people before: is like, whether you believe whatever conference is going to, you don't need to be a true insider. You just need to be able to read the tea leaves and use this thing that most of us who took geometry in high school understand as deductive reasoning. And you can't, because I think Mike Alford said it, we cannot give $30 million a year to our peers and expect to be able to compete. It's just very difficult. But one of the things that I want people to stop realizing, and I think either of the situations will be good, SEC or the Big Ten. But I want people to step back and realize that not very much things have changed. And I think I saw a comment where somebody stated that we have more natural rivalries in the SEC. I asked how. I mean, we don't have, like, the only rivals we have are the University of Florida, Miami, and Clemson since 1991. We don't have rivalries with South Carolina. We maybe compete sometimes with Georgia for recruits, but we don't have a rivalry there. We're not rivals with Alabama. The only thing that we have in common is that we're in the South. Which I always argue with people is that 7 of our games are played in the South, regardless. We have 7 to 8 home games every year. Every school has it. Mark, you live in the Northeast. It gets cold sometimes, I'm sure, in the beginning of November. When would you say it really snows up that way if you're going to get a good snow?
Most of the time, we don't see any snow until 2 weeks before Christmas.
And you know what's done pretty much 2 weeks before Christmas? Football. Like, we've had our conference championship games.
Yeah.
We're not playing bowl games up north, hopefully. And even then, the Midwest, I mean, you may have a snow right around Thanksgiving, but you know what we have? What we're blessed by state law in the state of Florida, we have to play the University of Florida around Thanksgiving time. So that's one of your games. The coldest month we'll have to deal with in the Big Ten is in the month of November. And we're luckily, this year we'll play Pitt, and we're praying that Pitt won't snow. It snowed when we played Boston College the last few times, flurries, but it has snowed on the last 2 times that we've been there. And guess what it does in the SEC? It snows in Missouri. It's cold as hell in Missouri. Mm-hmm. It's cold as hell in Arkansas. It's cold as hell in Kentucky. It's cold as hell in a lot of these places. Like, it's a lot of the arguments that people have. I'm like, it doesn't make sense, your argument.
Absolutely. So everything that you just outlined, I have told to USC fans to send them off the edge or keep them from the edge, or told to the Big Ten hardliners that are like, we can't wait to see USC and see them play in the snow. And I'm like, who plays in the snow? Yes, it happens. It happens on the last 2 weeks of the November in Minnesota or Wisconsin, but they've got the same situation as you have. They're going to play UCLA the final game of the season. So they're going to be playing in Southern California. They play Notre Dame every other year, and they play, they play every year, but every other year in Southern California, the final week of the season. So 2 of their 4 games in November are going to be in. So yes, they could play there. It's always possible that by some fluke, there could be a 30-degree day in the first 10 or 15 days in November that somebody could run into Florida State going to Wisconsin or Minnesota. But I looked up the average temperature in Columbus, Ohio for the last week of November, and it's 54 degrees. So
it could very well be that in Tallahassee. Like, and that's what I just try to tell people. My father lives in Columbus, and my father lives in Columbus, Ohio. He sends me the pictures of how bad it is, but it's in January normally when it's bad. And guess what? That's basketball team. That's Leonard Hamilton's problem. But they play indoors. Like baseball, that might suck. But I don't really know how that works. So I just think a lot of it is change. I wasn't really I don't really know what it was like when we left the Metro Conference or when we left being independent to go to play in the ACC. But right now it's all about doing what's best for the conference. And right now the Big Ten has more fiscal dollars dedicated to the educational side. And right now they're more profitable than the SEC. And if we come into the conference, all you're going to do is renegotiate a new deal that's nationwide, and a nationwide deal through multiple different channels with CBS, Fox. I don't know
NBC.
if NBC was NBC. And if you add in the streaming situation with what they're probably going to want to do as well, you're talking about a contract that's going to be able to provide you with significant resources.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, James, we appreciate you stopping by because I know that you're covering the NFL Combine and have a million things going and have a appointment there at 8:00. So appreciate you. Chris, thank you so much for stopping by. This is Chris Fraser from Spearatics. And again, they've got an interview coming up with Mike Alford, Florida State Athletic Director. So that is big time and not to be missed. William, thank you so much for the super sticker. Khalil, thank you for this one. We don't have time to answer any questions. So please, Khalil, bring this back next week. The one program I actually do care about in the ACC that is not Florida State is Virginia Tech. Would Virginia Tech get picked up by the Big Ten? Probably not, but that's a loaded question as well. So we will get to you, Khalil, next week. So be back here next Wednesday at 6:00 Eastern. Appreciate everybody being here at the Voice of College Football.